Hi guys! Today I'm going to talk about the new selective thinking skills assessment. Firstly, thinking skills is made of two major abilities. They are critical thinking and problem solving. These are two major classifiers for the selective school's thinking skills assessment. In the selective school thinking skills assessment, critical thinking is all about the understanding of arguments. Problem-solving skills are also needed, and the questions need a bit of logical thinking as well as visual ones. There are two other major classifiers for the thinking skills assessment. They are non-verbal reasoning and verbal reasoning. Non-verbal reasoning involves answering questions that have the sense of visual skills treasured. Verbal reasoning is basically about the understanding of words and small texts. These are the other two major classifiers for the selective school's thinking skills assessment. These classifiers usually have 20 questions each of their kind. 20 non-verbal reasoning questions and 20 verbal reasoning questions. Today I am going to go through some methods with you so that you can make sure to get the correct answer. But before that, let's look at how much time and questions there are in the selective school's thinking skills exam. In the thinking skills exam, it is basically a race for time. In the University Cambridge Assessment (TSA) Thinking Skills Assessment, there are 50 questions but a whole 1 hour and 30 minutes. But in the selective school's thinking skills exam, it is only 40 minutes 40 questions. That means that you get 1 minute per question. Easy? No. So let's start explaining the questions. I'll start with the problem-solving ones. Today I will do the problem-solving questions between questions 1 and 20. Make sure to check out the next episode. As you can see, this is the first question of 40 in the New South Wales Selective Schools Thinking Skills Sample Test. This question is a bit of a time consumer as it requires a lot of steps. So I will teach you a method of drafting out this question. The first thing to do is to write out the first letters of each of the names of the people. Then write 30 beneath the letters because they all have 30 marbles. After writing 30 beneath each of the names, you start the calculations. Kai, as the question states, rolled a 5, so you should take away 5 from each of the other people and add 10 to Kai. So now Kai has 40 marbles, Joe has 25, and Alice also has 25. Joe rolled a 2, so Kai and Alice get 2 marbles and Joe should take away 4. So now Kai has 42 marbles, Joe 21, and Alice has 27. Now we can try guess-checking the answers. If we assume Alice rolled a 1, then Kai would have 41, Joe would have 20, and Alice would have 29. As that fits, it is the correct answer and you should choose A. Let's move on to the next one. Here is the next one. To solve these questions, you need to see which segments are the faulty ones. In the question, there are 3 segments that could be faulty. They are the top left one, and the top right one, and then the bottom right one. As you can see, if you filled in the top right segment into the first segment diagram, it would make the number 2. And then if you added the top and bottom right segments into the second segment diagram, you would get the number 3. Therefore, the next one would be 4, and it would be option A because if you add in the faulty segments, you would get the number 4. Now let's go to the next question. This question is rather easy if you note things down. You first note how Lee is 1 year younger than Eric. To do this, you write an L and then you put the number 1 on top of the L. After that, you put an E on top of the number 1. Next you see that Brian and Eric are twins, so you put the letter B next to the E. After that, the question states that Anita is 3 years older than Lee, so you put a 2 on top of Eric or Brian because they are 1 year older than Lee. The next thing you know is that Brian is 8 years old. If Brian is 8 years old, then Eric is 8, Lee is 7 and Anita is 10. So the answer is clearly D, and you don't need to worry about Zara. Now let's go on to the next question. This is the next question. To solve it, you first need not to be tricked by the all but 9 had kids part. If all but 9 had kids, then only 236 had kids. So then the question states that no goat had more than 2 kids. Next, it states that 357 kids were born in total. So after you grab this information, it's pretty simple. You just try out the options. Let's try option A to see if it is correct. You subtract option A from the 236. Then you subtract option A from 357. If subtracting option A from 236 equals half of option A getting subtracted from 357, then A is the correct answer. And since 236 take away 115 is 121, and 115 from 357 is 242, A is the correct answer. Now let's move on to the next question. If you draw onto the question booklet that you should do it on, this question is particularly easy. As you can see, the answer is definitely and obviously option B. Now let's move on to the next question. For this question, you first have to notice what the question wants you to do. The question asks you who lives at the right end of the road. You don't need to know what sport they play or what vehicle they drive. So for this question, first you have to note down that MG, Mr. Green, lives on the right of MW, Miss White. The second piece of information is unnecessary, and the third, fourth and fifth are also unnecessary. Point number 6 is needed as it gives the question's answer. Point 6 tells us that Miss Black lives next Miss Orange and Miss Black lives 2 houses from Dr. Gray, so she should be at the right end of the road. Now let's go to the next question. In this question, you can see clearly that James holds top position with 169 marks. Then Layla comes second with the score 160. To work this out, you add 100 marks to Layla and then add 100 to James as well. Then you take away points until James is just beating Layla. In this case, Layla will have 260 marks, the most she can get, and James with 261. So therefore A is the correct option. Now let's move on to the next question. This question is quite easy. From the information in the question you can figure out with your spatial reasoning skills. If you are correct, you must have chose A. Let's see the next one. In this question, you need to see which combination is valid and the cheapest for going on the tourist bus. To solve this question, you need your problem-solving skills. If you can calculate the question correctly, then you should have had this combination. Day 2, 3, and 4 will be paid for with a 4 consecutive days ticket. Then day 6 will be paid for with a 1-day pass. Day 10, 11 and 12 will be paid for with another 4-day pass, and days 14, 15 and 16 will be similar. And that is the end of the video. Make sure to click that subscribe button and smash the notification bell so you don't miss any more of my videos.